Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Enablement Brew podcast. I'm Carly Lehner.
And I'm Malvina Elsai, and we're so excited you're joining us for yet another episode. And we have a guest. We are joined by Morgan, and I'm so excited that you're joining us. So welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yay, incredible. So the tradition on our show is that we talk about the beverages that we drink while we're recording. So we'll let you kick start. What are you drinking? What's in your mug?
Oh, okay. So I like to stay extremely hydrated because I don't want my voice to crack. So I'm drinking Essentials water. So I have these massive water bottles that I typically have. And then I found this the other day because I was so excited. Propel. I don't know if you've drinking Propel before, but Propel is so
Oh my
good.
God.
Yeah, I hadn't seen them in forever, and then I was in Costco. I was like, oh my God, I was so fired up. I almost bought the whole thing. So yeah, I'm good spirits right now. I got my hydration station.
I haven't had a Propel in probably 20 years.
Right. I thought they were extinct, but I found it and I was like, no way. I gotta get this.
Can you tell me,
That's amazing.
please? I feel like I'm missing out. What is FOMO? Serious FOMO. What is Propel?
Okay, so the best way to think about it, it's basically water with like additive like flavors. So this one is peach. So it's like drinking water. It's fused with Gatorade, and it's like peach water. Or there's also like grape water. They also have like strawberry water. So yeah, it depends on what flavor or fruit that you want, but it's like a dash of that flavor. It's like really good. So I used to drink a ton of them, and then I saw it and I was like, wait, what? This is incredible.
I know. I used to drink it like before soccer games or like at halftime or whatever. It's basically
Yeah,
like a Gatorade, but water, which
You
is
know, like
amazing.
speaking of
exactly.
water, I bought my son this water bottle. It's called, this is not an advert, by the way. It's not a commercial. But these water bottles, they're called Air Up, and basically it's a normal water bottle, but where the straw is, you buy this thing that smells. So you can get various smells like peach iced tea, Coca-Cola, blueberry, lemon, lime, whatever you want. And when you're drinking, because you smell it, your brain thinks that you're not drinking water, but you're actually drinking a juice of some sort. He likes it. I think it's more of a gimmick. But yeah, there you go.
I've
It's
seen those on
interesting.
TikTok. Yeah.
I haven't seen
So
that, so
I'll
that's
continue. I'm also drinking water because it's the afternoon. I got my Stanley mug. Yes, I'm a Stanley girly. Try and drink 3 to 4 of these a day. So, like Morgan, I like to stay hydrated. So,
gotcha.
Malvina, please tell us you actually have a mug today.
Well, hold on. I have the
The
Well, there we
Jiminy.
go.
There we
yes.
go.
These are actually fabulous. I go through like 5 of these a day, and they're 500 ml each, so I know I'm hydrated as well. But then I also have my iced coffee next to me, so two beverages.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah. So we actually saw Morgan in person was that last week? It was at the
It was
Jiminy
last week,
event.
yeah.
So Morgan, how was the rest of your trip to London?
Oh, it was incredible. It's the best trip that I've had all year. I've been to London multiple times, but this was definitely the best one. It was just good to be at multiple events. It was good to be there for an extended stay. I met a lot of people that I have been meaning to meet with for a very long time, and I reconnected with a lot of people I haven't seen in 4 years. So for me, it was just an incredible experience. And I also got to go to places in London I've never been before. So that was also cool as well. So I had a fantastic time. I feel like my body has now finally adjusted back to the normal time zone. I slept like all weekend once I came back from more than weekend, so I was chilling.
Good.
Oh, good. So, well, we're glad to hear you had a great trip. And look, we both know you're really passionate about sales. Maybe before we dive into today's topic, which is all about when the good times come back, and what we should be doing today to really get prepped for when the market shifts and things get a little bit better and budgets open up and all that good stuff. How did sales kind of become your passion?
So I mean, like most people, it's like an accident, right? So I originally wanted to go into marketing. I got rejected a lot, and so I was like, that clearly isn't the path. And then I applied, or actually cold called VP sales, to go get a SDR job. Now at the time I had no idea what that even meant. I just knew that I needed to get into a company and do something, and so SDR role was there. And the first couple months I did not like sales at all. I was like, this is terrible. I want to quit, right? But a lot of people told me that just to like continue on, like actually learn it and like take 100% ownership of it. So I did that, and it ended up being the best experience for me learning sales and understanding it. I think ultimately at the end of the day, what I came to the conclusion on is that like sales is more of like a puzzle. And so that's what got me really excited and passionate about it. Is like when you think about every single thing that you do, more so in prospecting where I spend the most of my time learning, but also in the sales front, that you're continuously trying to identify and solve a puzzle. And so once you treat it like that, then you get more passionate about it. Plus, most people like to not agree with this because I think people think sales is an aggressive thing, but sales is the cornerstone of life, right? So if you're able to understand how to sell, it's like a lot of similarities in life, and it helps you with your personal relationships, and also like moving forward, helps you just if you want to, like I have done do your own thing or side hustle, like all those things are going to be transferable skills.
Love that. Love that. So obviously now we're in a climate where it's a little bit tough out there, right? BDRs are struggling, AEs are struggling. It's a little bit challenging. And from an enablement perspective, at least, we're doing hopefully all the right things to still continue encouraging and instilling the best practices. But what do you think are some of the tangible things that sellers and organizations can do today to really get prepared when, 3, 4 months down the line, budgets open up and everyone's kind of excited to be buying, to be spending, to be making those investments? What can we be doing today to really get prepped for that?
So if you think about the past, I was just talking to John about this, John Bertos. We were chopping about this. So if you think about the past like 10 years before, obviously it got like really really tough. I would say like let's just say pre-COVID, because obviously that was a snaggle as well. Like it's been easy to sell, right? Like budgets have been open, money's been flying around, people have been investing hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So it was easier to sell. I'm not saying it was like a walk in the park, but it was just easier. And so now, as things get more difficult, you truly do have to know how to sell and understand on those pain points. So I'm stating that because right now is one of the times where you need to start diving deeper with what are you looking and what are you actually solving, and speaking to current buyers, current people in your sales cycle on why they're actually purchasing your product, and doubling down on what are those things that we're doing that are leading to success. And if there are ways where the seller obviously can't be in control of this, but if there's ways that marketing can get involved and educate that market on what the buyer pain points are that's actually leading to people to purchasing your product, that should be happening more, because that will provide air cover for not only your prospecting, but also provide air cover for your pipeline acceleration as well. So as I even talk to clients, as I look at my own business as well, is like it's just harder because if you're not able to truly solve something, we all know the CFO is going to be like, no chance. So you have to really find out ways like, what are you actually doing here? And that just requires a layer deeper of questioning, a layer deeper of analyzing what your product really does. But the benefits of all that are, if people are willing to give you money, that's a massive win right now. Right? Like that's big, right? Because like people are not trying to spend money at all. So that means that you're solving something, but then it's identifying what led to them actually purchasing this. What problem are we solving? And then you need to hyper focus and double down on that. And here's the thing, and I'm curious on you all's perspective and what you're telling your team, but from what I've talked to business owners about, etc., they're like, hey, if you're able to just survive, I don't really like using survive, but you could thrive too, but survive the next, let's say, couple months, right? And you're able to still close business and you're able to still get things done, you're setting your infrastructure and foundation up for massive success when things do open up, because you've proven that you actually do solve a problem. So when money does open up, you're not only solving more problems, you're gonna get more business, you're gonna be able to articulate why you could do that. So that's what people should be focusing on right now. It's like, why are people buying? It's not just, oh, this was a cool product. It's like, what was the reason that this person invested money into me? Why are they doing this? And you have to ask those questions.
Yeah, it's actually funny because we're going through a very similar exercise right now with coming up with what our use cases are and like what problems do we solve for clients typically. And like you would think we would have this, and we have it like anecdotally, but I think helping sellers focus their efforts on things that we are really good at is kind of the best way to approach a market like this. It can be really tempting to just go do everything that comes across your desk because it might be revenue, but you might actually be putting the engagement at risk. Or, if we're in the SaaS space, like it might churn faster because it's not really like our bread and butter type of thing that we're solving for. So, Morgan, I love that you said like marketing can really help with air cover and like telling a story. And working with an enablement team is like the best way to take what marketing's doing externally and basically upskilling the team internally on how to speak to those things when they are having conversations. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it's a really good topic to think about. So when you're talking about discovery, because again, like this is something that we talk about in sales all the time, like, oh, figure out what the pain points are and really be able to like solve people's problems. That's a lot easier said than done in a discovery call,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, if I take a discovery call with someone and they just say, what are your challenges? I'm like, I'm probably not going to tell you that right away. So, Morgan, how do
No.
you work with reps on doing a better job of discovery in a more authentic
So
way?
yeah, if you I remember this so vividly, and it made me change the way I think about sales like a lot. And this is when I had to get better at asking questions. So, and then I'll lead into how you can run better discovery because I got rocked here. So we could all laugh at my failure. So I was doing some cold calls. I was calling it was a VP of marketing. They answered the phone. And I asked them, "Hey, what are your?" It's so funny because it's so bad. What are your marketing goals for this year? And they're like, "I have a lot of marketing goals that I'm not gonna tell you, so this is probably a waste of your time." And I was like, "Great, this is a great way to start my day." So yeah, I got rocked. But like looking back on it, that's a terrible question because like obviously there's a ton of marketing goals. There's a ton of things that person's doing. I didn't really I didn't really show them that I knew what I was talking about, right? And it's just another call. It's a waste of their time, and they moved on. So now the way that I stage it, so you're not just saying, "Hey, what are your marketing goals?" You have to come into conversations and make people feel like you already know their potential problems, or at least have an understanding of what is going on. Just a little bit, right? So when I start a call, let's say in the first 5 to 10 minutes, however you like to run a call, I like to directly call things out so then I can get an understanding of like where you're even at. So before I go into the call, say, "Hey, look, like I'm going to ask some questions just to get an understanding of where you're at in your business so then I can appropriately tell you if I can help or not." But I want to tell you something that I've actually just been identifying with a couple of buyers I've been talking to. They've been telling me that these are their three main focuses, X, Y, Z. And I just want to get an understanding if like one of those three or all three are something you're currently dealing with, or is it something else? Now, the reason that you do that is now that I've shown that like I know a little bit of something that's going on. And if it's all three, that's great. I should have questions to then uncover how my solution tackles that. If it's none of the three, you're not going to get you're not going to get the answer that I got, like, "Hey, like I'm not going to tell you anything." At least they're going to be like, "Hey, those are actually things that are on the list, but they're not the top three." And they might actually give you what the top three are. And the whole goal, I listened to a podcast, and it talked about how you have to find out what are basically one or two things that are on top of mind for an executive. Otherwise, the the gauge of them buying whatever you're offering is like not going to happen. But you can't hop on a call and say, "Hey, what's your number one priority right now?" Because they're not going to answer that. So you have to be able to show them, "I know a couple things already. I've been talking to people that have potential problems like you." If it's those three, again, that's great. But if it's not, at least you can start distinguishing what are the top two and the number one. And then basically from there, you then just ask layering questions, pain point questions, and you try to identify where you can't truly help. Now, again, this all sounds easy, easier said than done, but this will help you out way more than most people. And I'm gonna put this out here because I don't know, but this is my guess. I'm assuming for the both of you, you take vendor calls, right? You have people who are trying to sell you things, and I would probably say 1 to 5% of people do what I just told you, or just what I just said, I highly doubt it happens, because a lot of people just go with their agenda. They're like, I'm gonna run this thing. They don't say like, hey, this is actually what I'm hearing from the field. This is what I'm hearing from the people. Try to distinguish what the one or two things are that are important, and then you sell off of that. So that's the way that I give people advice on that.
I'm going to say something controversial here.
Okay.
No.
Having honest conversations, no? I think the big challenge today is that, let's face it, everyone is, organizations are running, they're making decisions, business is continuing. They have the basic tech stack that they need to survive, right? And a lot of these products and services ultimately become nice to haves, right?
Yep.
Just even thinking from my perspective, like, I don't really need anything else right now. I'm kind of good with what I have. Hope that doesn't get taken away, but I'm good with what I have. I don't need anything else. It might sound cool, but then I'm like, oh, bells and whistles. I'm managing the way that I have things now. So it's also about, how do you drive that almost sense of urgency and need when, let's be real, a lot of our needs in a business are satisfied in one way or another, and business continues as normal. So if I don't get this particular product, or if I don't buy this particular platform, I'm not going to die. The whole thing isn't going to collapse. I'm still going to be able to function and do my job. And that's where I think selling today becomes so much more difficult, because like the basic needs are kind of fulfilled, right? So it's, how do you position your product and service from the aspect of, you must have this. This isn't just a nice to have. It's not a bell and whistle, but it's a real, true need, and something that's really going to make an impact to the organization. Any tips on that?
I don't think that was as controversial as you were hyping that up to be, though.
Oh,
I was expecting like the hottest take.
Because I think about it, I go through my inbox sometimes. I do get prospected. I did receive a few calls recently, and I'm like, I don't really need it. I don't really need it. Delete, right? Sorry to whoever I did that to, but delete, right? So it's like, how do you need to tweak that messaging so it's really not nice to have, it becomes a must have.
Okay, so this goes in two different paths. Are we talking about prospecting, or we're talking about selling? This is two different answers.
Let's tackle prospecting first.
Okay, so it's gonna be very difficult for most people to prospect and just prospect just you, because you're gonna be like you said, I'm good, right? It's fine, because they don't have the full information. So it's gonna be very difficult for someone out of the blue, unless they see something that is like absolutely alarming, a clue that they can use. It's just gonna be hard. So in order for anyone to, it's not an absolute really here, but for the majority of people that you're looking to reach out to, you almost can't even reach out to the executive immediately, or the decision maker immediately. I recommend people to do a lot more groundswell right now to figure out what actually is happening. So I would actually be reaching out to people. If I was looking to get, book a meeting with you, right? I would actually be talking to sales reps and like your maybe sales enabler associate, something of that nature. I'd be trying to figure out, like, are there actual pain points that maybe you haven't, maybe you just don't know, right? In the trenches that I can identify from other people that are reps, that are sales enabler associates. So the way that I go about it is I try to uncover information that is uncoverable from data or from doing research. And the only way I'm going to find that out is to reach out people below the power line. And I say, hey, real quick, like, here's something that I saw for. I've been looking at the website. I don't know if y'all are doing this or not. And I'm curious to see, like, if y'all are doing this right now. And so that was a way, when I was doing like full-time sales training, that I got into accounts. I would literally reach out to reps and say, hey, like, I'm looking at your website. Looks like you're hiring a lot of SDRs. You're an SDR. I have zero idea if this is applicable, but it looks like maybe you haven't had an SDR training yet. Like, is that something your team is even talking about? So, if I reach out to a leader and say, you need SDR training, they're going to be like, I'm good. Like, I don't need that. But if the reps are like, yo, like, yeah, we need this, and like, no one has done this for us, that's different information now. I could be like, hey, yeah, I've actually talked to 8 of your reps and they told me that there's been no SDR training. Here's how we help with SDR training. Like, this might be something you want to talk about. Different context. I've talked to people on your team, and now you're like, okay, I might want to talk to you now because like maybe there's something I'm missing out of all the high level things I'm doing. I miss some things in the trenches. So that's the from a contextual standpoint for prospecting. You have to sometimes talk to people in the organization to find out how you can be a thing that you have to buy versus a nice to have. And also for sellers, sometimes it's out of their control, right? Like most products are nice to haves, which is a different conversation on how you should pick your company. Like, but that's a different conversation for another time. But like, yeah, you're kind of caught up now. Like, that's kind of, you should have made a better decision, but that's a different conversation. But for the most part, you can make things that they absolutely need, but you can't do that if you're not building allies within the organization. So that's from a prospecting perspective. The selling perspective is different, but from prospecting, there needs to be more groundswell in prospecting. Otherwise, yeah, you're reaching out with not the full context.
I absolutely love that, Morgan, because I wonder how many reps are out there, probably plenty, that have one conversation and don't get an immediate like opportunity ready to go and just like give up on that account. Like, oh, I didn't talk to the right decision maker and like, it's time to move on. But actually, I had a conversation today. I'm not the buyer, but I had a conversation with a rep who did his research. Like he spoke with a couple different people as a marketing product, talked to me on how like RevOps is impacted by this marketing product and how like theirs could have maybe solved some of our problems. And I was like, hey, look, like I'm happy to champion this internally for you. I'm not going to be your buyer. And it was the way he came prepared to the meeting because he had all this additional context from doing like the groundwork. And it's going to take a little bit more effort for a rep to go in and prospect that way. But I think this might be controversial. I think our sales reps' calendars are pretty empty right now. And so I think they could probably afford to spend a little bit more time having more meetings to get into that decision maker. Before we might be like, hey, if it's not at the power line or higher, it might not be worth my time. But now actually I think everything is worth a salesperson's time,
Yeah.
which uh, I think is the important thing. But so, in an effort to think about when the good times come back, I mean, we're in the good times, maybe, if the depends on your context, but some people are in the good times. But how do you nurture prospects when they say no right now? They're like, talk to me in 6 months, or this sounds great, but I have no budget. Like, Morgan, what do you suggest to reps on how to nurture people like that?
Okay, I'm gonna make a prediction here. This is very very bold. I'm gonna make a very bold prediction. I'm gonna tell you like how you should go about this. But before I do that, Lavina, you were gonna comment on what I said just earlier. You may have had a point. I'll just make sure you have a point before we move on to the next topic because I'm about to go really deep. And so once I go here, like we're gonna leave this topic that I just mentioned on the groundswell. Like so, before I just completely go deep here, like did you have a comment? Because I saw you look, you were gonna say something.
I just got really excited when you were saying, work with the account, talk with, members of the team, because they're so often forgotten. And ultimately, that conversation becomes so much more powerful when someone in the team, like take it a BDR, comes and says, hey, I've been approached we haven't had sales training, or we haven't been trained on this. This company does it. Then also as a leader, you're like, uh-oh, like they've spotted a gap. I'm going to take this really seriously, right? It becomes
Yep.
a different conversation. I think where organizations maybe have to be mindful, because also from an AE perspective, you're like, well, they're not director level or they're not VP level. So actually, I don't want that meeting because they're not that decision maker, right? And sellers do that all the time. They will disqualify a meeting if it's not
Yeah.
of a particular
Mhm.
persona or title. But ultimately, actually, if you look at prospecting, then that responsibility and that onus of really engaging with people in the team, with the team members, maybe with people who are junior, maybe just starting off, but actually are vital components of that team, ultimately makes that story and that business case a lot more tangible and a lot more viable. So I was nodding, I was smiling, and I was like, yes. And I think that's really great and powerful advice for BDRs out there, especially, to Carly's point, like you might get one no and actually just move on and not even try. But it's like you
Yeah.
have to build your way up, not necessarily start up, get the no, and then forget about it. So we're on to your really deep thing.
I just had your commentary here. I saw you and I was like, we're gonna make sure that you can say your piece. You guys, I saw you get fired up. So, but that's the thing. And we'll come back to that. But let's get back into this. So, I talked to someone, Vivina, that you know very well, Alex Ollie. All right, in London, we met up for breakfast. I've known him since 2019. We were really close. He's good friends, good people, and we were talking about when are things going to get back to normal. Now, here I'm going to say this here. I could be completely wrong, but this is my hypothesis. I think we'll start to see things stabilize and then go towards being good, like mid to late September. Now, I'm gonna tell you why I believe this. So, as I've been having conversations with people about like what I offer, as I've been having conversations with clients, most people are like, "Hey, we need to assess how H1 is." Right? Everyone's like H1, we got to see how H1 is. We need to figure out like what happened, right? Okay, cool. So if you look at H1, depending on if you have calendar year or you do the Salesforce like end of Jan, whatever, your H1 is ending around end of June, so coming around for people right now, or end of July. Also, as well, you all know this because you're out in London right now. People in Europe, late July and August, take a lot of holiday. They're gone. They're out. You're not gonna talk to them. And also in the States, kids are starting to go back to school in August. So a lot of people in August here also take some time off to spend their time with their kids. And then basically they're like, all right, you go back to school, or they're gonna do what they need to do. Right. So my hypothesis in all this is that July and August will be like assessing what happened. People are taking holiday, get time away. September, people come back and they're like, okay, what happened in H1? And people are going to be like, okay, the layoffs happened in January. We had the SVB situation. We had some ups and downs, but this actually what is pretty positive. And the majority of organizations are going to be like, well, because we're not just burning cash, we're actually being thoughtful. We made the right investments. We used what we needed. We did more with less. We're actually doing pretty good. So we actually can make some investments in H2 and start opening up our budgets to start making certain moves. And you'll start seeing that in mid and late September. So what's my point in all this? So every conversation that you have, some people are just going to be like, I can't do anything right now. Here are the reasons why. Now you can always push them, but you mentioned this earlier, Lavina. You can't create urgency. It's not possible unless you have like I don't know, a genie or something, and you can just say, hey, I wish we could create urgency here. You can't do that. The only thing you can do is uncover and drive urgency. But it's hard to uncover urgency right now because people are very, very defensive. They're not trying to do a whole lot if they don't have to. So the best thing that you could do is ask the question to everyone who's like, hey, like, talk to me in 2-3 months. Ask them directly, like, hey, what's the best way I can stay top of mind without being an annoying sales rep? That's like the number one question you should be asking, like every single person when they are like, hey, like, I don't want to talk to you right now. And then based on their answer, you then provide what they want. So it might be, I don't know, webinars, it might be blog posts, it might be assets. I don't know, but everyone's different. But you need to be asking people, what do I need to do to stay top of mind so I don't become an annoying sales rep? And then provide them those resources accordingly. And if you start doing that, that's also a good fit as well. And here's something that sometimes I miss this myself, but everyone should be thinking about this is just because someone doesn't want to move forward doesn't mean that they didn't see value in what you're currently doing. We know that priorities are different based on the quarter. They might not be able to make that move right now. So you can not only ask the question I just told you, you could also be like, is there anyone else that's like you or thinks like you that actually might be in the right timing to implement this product or service? And you could get some referrals and actually maybe get some business earlier from that. And then here's the benefit of that. If you have someone who doesn't want to move forward with you right now, but they found your program or service or product, whatever you're offering to be applicable, and they refer you to someone else and you do good with that person, then that is only going to expedite the close when they come back around because they're already seeing benefits of someone they referred you to. So there's a lot that you could play with this. Like, I know everyone at the end of the day wants to close every single call that they get on. That's why pipeline coverage is important. I will tell you though, if you ask this question of like, how do I stay top of mind without being annoying, you're gonna have better answers and you're gonna be able to provide better resources.
Oh, mic drop. That was good.
Thank you.
I love that.
He
I
went
wish people
deep.
would ask me that.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, I don't want to go to webinars. I never attend webinars anymore. So like, if someone can just send me like some content every now and again, or like an example of a case study, cool.
Mm.
But like, I don't know. That's just me. But no one ever asks. So
No,
yeah.
because you have to think of the seller's mindset. A lot of this has to do with mindset, right? Is that most people think in short term mindset. So if you tell me I don't want to move forward right now, most people don't care. So they're like, all right, cool, you can't help me. We're not gonna close this deal. I don't care about this conversation anymore. I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna ask some more questions. Whatever.
Yep.
I'm gonna follow up like 6 months. It is what it is. So, but you have to think about things as like an abundant long term thing. It's like every conversation you have could lead into something. So I'm gonna ask you, hey, what would be helpful for you to see moving forward? Great. I'm gonna provide that to you. It's gonna take a couple of minutes of my time. If I'm not closing deals left and right, it's probably applicable. It's probably useful for me to do so. And so that's what I'm going to do. And a lot of people miss that. And that's what leads it to them not getting the success that they ultimately want.
Love that. I love that. I think that's the best advice, honestly, to give reps today, right? And I did to hear everyone's kind of saying, well, 3, 4 months, it's going to get a lot better. Things are going to pick up. If something is a dead opportunity today, dead in the sense it's a no for now, but obviously the interest is there. Staying front of mind without being annoying is so important because let's face it, we've all been in situations where we're potentially receiving unsolicited content, right? I didn't necessarily
Yeah.
ask for it. And it's coming in left, right, and center. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And it just becomes very overwhelming. And it's easy to go from, hey, I've had a really good conversation with Morgan, but now he's just bombing me left, right, and center. Like, whoa, too much,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to think
Too much
twice
going on.
next time I have a conversation with that individual. So I think that's such a powerful question to ask. And I think you actually ended on a very high note, right? It's all about the mindset. It's all about that growth mindset. And ultimately, it's playing that long game. It's not just being so focused in the now, but really looking forward to what could happen in the future. So I'm so glad you said that.
Thank you. I'm hoping that people take it and use it.
Yeah,
Job of
definitely.
enablement, one to make sure that it's happening, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have time for today on this latest episode. So Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. It was a good chat. I think we thought we were controversial in some points, but I don't think actually we were. So I guess it's good.
It's all
Thank you so
good.
much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's a wrap, and we'll see you next time for a new episode.
Bye, everyone.